Till in 1924, a Chinese American named Ban Fei was refused service at a San Francisco restaurant. He returned the next day with 10 white friends who each ordered the most expensive dish. Fei was again refused service. He then confronted his friends. They walked out, leaving the food unpaid for. In 1924, when the San Francisco restaurant Almond Blossom refused to serve Fei because he was Asian and other customers might object, he returned the next day with 10 white friends who each ordered porterhouse steak, the most expensive item on the menu. Then Fei came in and was refused service on the same grounds given the day before. Fei then confronted the customers who, upon learning of the restaurant's policy, walked out of the restaurant, leaving the steaks cooking, unpaid for. Asterisk. The son of a Chinese-American interpreter, Fei moved to the United States at the age of 13. In 1934 he was employed by the International Ladies Garment Workers Union to organize Chinese garment workers in San Francisco. However, his subsequent membership of and advocacy for the Communist Party alienated the Chinatown establishment and the union, which terminated his employment in 1938. Asterisk. Dude was fighting for Chinese American rights constantly. Expensive dish and restaurant equals porterhouse steaks at the Almond Blossom apparently. This story reminds me of Bruce Lee kicking in half that "No dogs, no Chinese" sign at the park. People forget back then it was white/colored segregation. Not white/black. And yes, Asians were colored and used colored bathrooms and facilities. Racism also extended to other whites like Italians back then too, but they still used white facilities. Edit, per the response from others, racism was a lot more complex than we realize. And still is. Sounds like it was the restaurant. Underscore. That owed the fee. Good trouble trademark. This is a little known part of Northern California history. The Chinese workers built much of the railroad and many lost their lives doing it. After this, many Chinese set up their own towns, usually along a river. White men in control wanted them, but not their women to immigrate to work. Just like the KKK, they rode into these towns and murdered them or forced them from their homes in the middle of the night. Many fled to San Francisco where there was a Chinatown. Growing up in Crescent City in 1950s, I asked why we only had one black and one Chinese family in town. I was told by old locals that they had taken torches to the Chinese there and forced them to walk to Grants Pass, Oregon. When you hear someone say everyone was racist back then, remember Ban Fei's friends. Racism never has to be a norm, or acceptable. There are always good people, and there always have been. If I were one of the friends, knowing the plan, I would eat at least half the steak before storming out. People sleep on the racism and discrimination Asians faced and continue to face in the US. I don't even know why. Never understood the whole Asians don't experience racism because we definitely do and still do. That is barely the most interesting thing about Ban Fei. He wasn't so much just a Chinese American, he was a great warrior for rights of the people/Chinese Americans. Weird title. Out of all the hate there is in the world, hating someone because they aren't the same race as you is one of the absolute most stupid things I've ever heard. Racism is fucking stupid and I feel like only insecure, truly ignorant people end up being racist. From the wiki link. Fei then confronted the customers who, upon learning of the restaurant's policy, walked out of the restaurant, leaving the steaks cooking, unpaid for. My respect for his friends was already high, now it's higher. That was a pretty boss move. I bet the restaurant immediately knew what he was up to as soon as everyone walked out, and simply couldn't do anything about it. Did they change their policies because of it? You work for tips, right? Big mistake. Huge mistake. My Asian grandparents both worked for a super rich white family as maid and driver/handyman. When my mom was born, my grandpa was so excited as she was the only girl. He had been saving for months to buy her a dress from a rather high-end store they could never afford regularly. However, the store refused service to him because he was working class Asian. Unbeknownst to my grandpa, Somehow word got to the head of the family that my grandparents worked for, so grandpa gets told he needs to drive the patriarch somewhere and realizes that he is going to the same store that had refused him service. When the patriarch asks my grandfather to come inside with him, my grandpa was obviously uncomfortable, but when the big boss asks for something, you do it, so he went. As soon as they were in the store, the patriarch of probably one of the top 5 richest families in the area asks why my grandfather was refused service, and states that his money is just as good as anyone else's. He demands that they not only allow my grandfather to buy my mother's dress, but that they close the entire store while he chooses so to make sure that my grandpa will have all the help he needs choosing a dress for my mom. The patriarch lets the store know in no uncertain terms that if he ever hears something like this happening, he will tell all of his rich friends to stop supporting the store. Just wanted to point out that in our fight for equality there are others helping also. Thank you to that family who were so good to my family. Thank you to the wonderful friends who refused to stand for racism and walked out of the restaurant, and thank you to all who stand beside us and fight with us for equality for everyone, Black, Asian, gay, Muslim, etc. Solidarity gets things done. Oh, Fee, you're trying to live a life that's completely free. You're racing with the wind. You're flirting with death. So have a cup of coffee and catch your breath. The book Driven Out cites more than 100 programs, violent encounters, rounding up, etc. of Chinese. I believe Banfi was one of the original civil rights protesters. Oh, a thread about a Chinese American who fought against racism? Quick, let's make a racist joke about his name. LOLOL. Fucking /s. I'm mainly amazed that a Chinese guy had 10 white friends in 1924. 1924 isn't even that long ago, it's within touching distance of living memory. It just blows my mind how backwards people were then, and makes me a bit sad some that people are still like that today. You could say he left the restaurant with quite the fee. From then on he went by the name scot-free. Legend. The real story is he got 10 people to help him out on the same day at the same time. That's incredible. Dude was born in 1908. How is no one talking about the fact he was 16 when this happened? This will get buried, but in case anyone is curious, I think this is the menu for that place. http://www.nubukdigitaltexts.org/dh fall 2018/exhibit/show/group 5/item/437. Looks like the T-bone steak, which is the dish in question, was $0.85, making it the most expensive thing on the menu. Power to the people. Participants were interviewed and unanimously stated they'd happily do it again, for a fee. It looks like nobody paid the fee that day. San Francisco Coxsuca, I guess they had to write it off as a fee. I want to know if the restaurant changed their policy. I didn't see anything about it in the wiki. That is fucking boss. Do people still say boss? What are some other examples of how we can put businesses in these type of compromising situations? We gotta stick it to the man. Fee decided not to pay the fee. WTF is the point of this article. This is how you weaponize racism against the racist. Anti-racist solidarity for the win. He was president of the Chinese Workers' Mutual Aid Association and leader of the Chinese section of the United States Communist Party. https://en. Wikipedia, org/wiki/united_states_communist_party. The most impressive thing is that he had 10 white friends. I'm white, and I have like 3. And that's why we have an extra fee on food at restaurants. I'll see myself out. Good. No such thing as a fee lunch, boss. Nice. Deleted. It required collaboration and perseverance. Belongs in Mad Libs. I can't imagine what it must be like to have 10 friends.